Hi, this tutorial is a full breakdown of how I created this scene. Take a look at the chapters below if you want to skip ahead. I learned how to create this water effect from Chuck CG's tutorial and adjusted it slightly for my own needs. They're a really talented Blender artist and much more experienced than me, so I recommend checking them out. For this tutorial, I'm using the basic prim box in Blender. I just scaled it up so I had more real estate to work with. I also used a few free assets. These are all linked in the description. To see how our water shader is working, we'll need a HDRI light in our scene. We can select a HDRI light from a massive free library online. Head over to Polyhaven, click on Assets, HDRIs, and scroll down until you find something you like. Polyhaven is a great resource. I use it all the time. As well as a massive selection of HDRIs, they also have textures and 3D models you can download and use in your projects completely free. Once downloaded, head back over to Blender. Switch one of your panels to the shader editor or create a new one, then switch object mode to world to see your environment light shader nodes. Click on the background node, then hit Ctrl-T. This shortcut only works if you have Node Wrangler switched on. Node Wrangler comes with Blender, so you don't need to download any third-party add-ons, but you might still need to install it from your Blender add-ons. Click on Edit, open Preferences. In the add-on menu, search for Node Wrangler and switch on. Make sure Enabled Only is unselected or you may not see it. Once you've got your node tree set up, click Open on the environment texture and load your HDR light. For this shader to look right, we need to switch to Cycle's render engine in Blender. At this time, I also adjusted my viewport samples so we can quickly see rough results of how our scene is working. First, I switched off the noise threshold, brought samples down to 12, turned denoise on, switched it to optics, albedo and normal, then changed the start samples to 6. Now in the shader editor, switch back to object mode. Delete the principal shader and create a glass BSDF shader. Switch to render mode to see how the shader is coming together. If you're using my scene settings from the previous chapter, you should see results very quickly, but if your computer is struggling, you can always try lowering the samples in your viewport even more. You can switch your HDRI background off in the render settings, under the film drop-down menu, and select transparent. In the shader editor, create a transparent BDSF shader, then use a mix shader to combine the two. Next, create a noise texture and a bump node. Connect the factor from noise into bump height, and then the normal output from bump into the glass BDSF normal input. Next, create a light path and plug the shader ray output into the mix shader factor input. Play with the noise scale to find something that works for your scene and put the detail up. For this scene, I used a value of 10. In the glass shader, you can change the color of the water. Next, add a principal volume shader and plug it into the material output. In here, we can adjust the density of the water and decide how transparent we want the water to look. Next, I added a little bit of emission and changed the color. I just played with these settings until I found something I liked. Next, I switched the point light in the scene to a sunlight, and then brought down the strength to something a bit more reasonable. And that's the basics of how I set up this water shader. So this texture looks kind of weird in an abstract cube, so I threw a boat in that I also downloaded from Polyhaven to contextualize the scene a little bit. I've linked the ship and the HDRI I used in this video if you want to follow along with my tutorial. I turned off the boat's widgets and scaled down, then turned off the rig's visibility as well. I chose a darker blue for the transparent shader and played with a few of the other shaders' colours until I found something I liked. Finally, I increased the noise scale. I think I'm going to call it a day on this scene and tutorial. For more Blender tutorials, check out my Blender tutorials playlist linked in the description.